Well, tracking the situation in Iran, retired Marine intelligence officer, host of the Strat podcast, Hal Kempfer, he joins us now, friend of the program. And Hal, we always appreciate you weighing in on days like today. As Kelly left off there, Iran's network of proxy forces, this is a major talking point, especially in the wake of this military mission. We know the FBI is on high alert. How do they monitor for any threats to the homeland, including sleeper cells?
Well, Kelly, what they have to do is they have to look across the board. They have to look, they have to use local law enforcement, local first responders. Now, one of the things that's been going behind the scenes is there's been a lot of training across all levels of law enforcement, public safety, and the indications or indicators of terrorism. This gets into suspicious activity recognition and reporting. So all of this is being done around the country. Everybody's going to be moving forward, local, state, federal, across the board. And of course, all the federal agencies, Department of Homeland Security, FBI are also going to be leaning forward as well. And there's a number of, at any given time, there's a lot of people who are being watched very closely because they may be associated with terrorism, or we may know that they're closely tied to Iran. You can be assured that we're going to be using more investigative techniques and possibly even, direct intervention to go in there to talk to them, to let them know that they are being watched carefully and deter any possible acts of terrorism.
Well, that would make a lot of sense. Iran has been issuing more threats in the wake of these strikes, as you know. We're monitoring the shooting in Austin, Texas right now. It's being investigated for possible ties to Iran tensions. What do you see, Hal, as the risk, the real threat level here at home?
Well, the threat level here at home is there are a number of, for lack of a better term, sleeper cells. For decades, we've known that there are individuals, from Iran or tied to Iran or tied to Hezbollah, one of Iran's proxies, that are here in the U.S. Day by day, they're usually involved in criminal activity that raises money, that pays for their different organizations. But they are trained. They do have tradecraft. You got to remember the Iranians way back when were trained by us. So they use some of our own tradecraft to do these clandestine types of attacks. So that's really the big fear, is that they would be operationalized. And this is a scenario that has been looked at for many years, as if this happens, then we need to be prepared for this. So it's not something unexpected.
Right. And at the same time, reportedly, TSA agents last received a partial paycheck. They're set to go without pay if this partial government shutdown continues, impacting the Department of Homeland Security. So do you believe it may be critical that status changes, considering these recent events and the fact that they're on the front lines in so many ways of our air security?
There's a lot of people in Congress and elsewhere saying, hey, look, we got to get past this DH impasse as far as budget. We got to get these people paid. Think about it. You got TSA, they're DHS, and then you're looking at the potential of potential Iranian operatives coming into the U.S. Well, now you're getting into ICE, you're getting into CBP. All these things about domestic immigration enforcement aside, this is a core Homeland Security, national security imperative that we have these things going. And when they're not getting paid, that puts incredible stress on them. They're going to be looking for things that they can do to make money on the side. And right now, we need them making money doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is protecting our airports, protecting our borders, protecting our country.
Right, it's so critical, and you would imagine that's putting some pressure on Congress right now, hopefully. You also have Iran firing on the Gulf states, and there is reporting those retaliatory strikes from Iran's side have actually worked to strengthen the Gulf allies. We have the British military now getting involved. They say they're operating strictly in defense of their allies, that they're not participating in strikes on Iran directly. Does this signal to you, Hal, that a wider conflict may possibly be on the horizon here?
Potentially. I'm not going to say it definitely will, but I will say this. As you mentioned, the GCC countries, Gulf Cooperation Council, which goes all the way back to Desert Storm time period, Desert Shield, that organization, which represents those countries, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia, all the countries along the Persian Gulf, they are speaking with a unified voice. Their territory has been attacked by Iran. I'm not ruling out, I don't think it'll be real soon, but in a couple of weeks, you may see one or more of them saying, hey, maybe we should participate with you on some of these strikes. I don't rule that out. I'm not hearing any discussion about that, but I've spent a lot of time over there. I know how they kind of operate, and that's not something I would say is an impossibility. As far as the British, I don't think are going to step in and do any strike missions, but this is an excellent thing for the British to be doing. This alleviates using our own resources to protect some of these states, is to have the British do that. And I would hope that other European allies might step in with their facilities in the region or their aircraft maybe going to the region to help these GCC countries out.
And then on Iran's side, do you see any other country coming to their defense? You know, if Operation Midnight Hammer was any indication, that answer appears to be no. But again, you have to consider the proxies as well.
Well, I have to say one thing this has done. You look at this, you look at Venezuela, Russia and China have been cozying up to these countries and say, hey, we're your allies. We're going to back you. Don't worry about it. And then when push comes to shove, when there is some sort of military action by the U.S. or involving the U.S., that they're nowhere to be seen. And we actually saw that when they reflagged that tanker that was heading across the Atlantic, and they made it a Russian tanker. Russian Navy showed up. U.S. Navy came in. All of a sudden, the Russian ships disappeared, and the tanker was stopped. That's kind of the reality. Is they may talk a good game, but you're starting to see just how limited China and Russia are and able to help their allies around the world.
And I wanted to get your take, Hal, because based on your military experience on the operations that have played out thus far, what did it take to target the Ayatollah? And how will this intense intelligence gathering and sharing with Israel continue now that this full-blown conflict is now underway?
Well, what you saw there was amazing intelligence. In fact, I'm pretty sure when everything's written at the end of the day, we'll eventually find out that maybe the reason why we kicked it off in daylight in the morning, as opposed to doing a night attack, which is more traditional because it does favor us in many ways. The reason we did was because we knew that Ayatollah Khomeini and all those other leadership figures were going to be in one place at one time, and that's a very time-sensitive target, and that's why we went in there and hit them. Now, there's some operational risk taken there, but as we have seen, that was a very, very successful mission. There's tremendous capabilities that the U.S. brings to this in intelligence. Also, don't forget, there's a lot of capabilities that the Israelis have, particularly in human intelligence and some of the things that might be covertly on the ground, shall we say, that allow some of this time-sensitive targeting. And I think that's going to get better. I think as the opposition to the regime gets more involved, they might start passing over targets to us, if you will, things that we could prosecute that would help them out. And I think this will be something we see throughout.
That's a really fascinating perspective. Hal Kempfer, thank you as always for your insights. Great to see you.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.